Millions of years ago, our planet was a land of chaos. The surface boiled with molten rock, and rivers of lava carved their way through the wilderness. The sky glowed orange and red as volcanic ash drifted across continents. This was not yet the Earth we know. It was still becoming. The air was thick, almost unbreathable. Lightning tore through clouds of ash, and every sound echoed like thunder. Life struggled to exist. Small plants clung to rocks, and primitive creatures crawled through burning ground, searching for safety. In this hostile world, early hominids, ape-like beings, watched from afar. Their curious eyes reflected the firelight of erupting mountains. They didn't understand what they saw, but instinct told them this was power, both beautiful and deadly. Then came a day unlike any other. The ground split open with a deafening roar. Trees fell, animals screamed, and waves of fire rushed through valleys. For miles, the land glowed red as night fell in the middle of the day. The primitive humans ran for shelter, into caves, under rocky cliffs, wherever darkness offered safety. They huddled together, terrified, as the world outside burned. In the flickering light, fear became the first lesson of survival. Ash rained for days. The sky disappeared beneath a blanket of smoke, and the air grew cold. Animals starved, rivers turned to mud, and silence fell. The kind of silence that follows destruction. Weeks later, the ash began to settle. Sunlight pierced through the smoke for the first time, casting gold across blackened earth. The survivors crawled out of caves, trembling but alive. The fire had destroyed much, but spared the future. Months passed. From beneath the cooled lava, green shoots appeared. Nature was healing. Life always finds a way. Insects returned, then small mammals, then herds of grazing beasts. The circle of rebirth had begun. The early humans began to explore again. Hunger pushed them beyond fear. They tracked small animals, learned to use sticks and stones, and discovered that unity meant survival. One night, lightning struck near their camp. The forest ignited, and from that fear came discovery. They watched how the fire burned, how it gave warmth and light. Slowly, they learned to keep it alive. With fire came transformation. Nights grew safer, food tasted different, and warmth became comfort. They had mastered the first true force of nature. They began to understand cause and effect. Stones made sparks. Fire made life easier. The first thoughts of invention flickered like the flames they tended. Seasons passed. They hunted larger animals, mammoths, wild boar, and giant birds. Each victory meant another day alive, another chance to tell their silent stories. They learned the power of togetherness. Families became tribes, and tribes became the foundation of humanity. Through cooperation, they built safety and identity. Nature, however, never rested. Heavy rains came. Thunder rolled endlessly. Rivers swelled and swallowed forests. The tribe learned humility once again. Man could survive, but never control nature. The storms forced them to move. They crossed mountains, rivers, and open plains, following herds in the scent of fresh grass. Thus began the Great Migration, the spreading of humanity. Over generations, they shaped stones into knives and spears. Every cut, every sharpened edge was a triumph of mind over matter. Intelligence had awakened. Sounds became signals. Gestures turned to language. The tribe learned to share more than food. They shared knowledge, warning, and love. Predators lurked everywhere. Saber-toothed cats, giant snakes, and vultures circling the skies. Death was never far, but it taught them courage. Each loss reminded them how precious life was. They began to bury their dead, to honor them with stones and flowers. This was more than instinct. It was emotion, the birth of memory, the beginning of humanity's soul. Under the stars, they sat around fires telling stories in gestures and sounds. Every flame carried history, lessons for the next generation. Culture had begun to form. Time passed. The tribes grew smarter, faster, and stronger. They learned to read the sky, to sense when storms would come and when the land was safe. As the centuries turned, new species emerged. Homo habilis, Then Homo erectus. Stronger bodies, sharper minds, better tools. Humanity was evolving. Fire was no longer just survival, it was mastery. They used it to forge paths, clear forests, and cook what once was inedible. Fire became civilization's first gift, but the earth had not forgotten its power. Once again, deep beneath the surface, pressure began to build. The mountains trembled and smoke rose into the heavens. The people watched from the cliffs. They no longer ran blindly. They understood the pattern, the rhythm of destruction and creation. When the volcano erupted again, they climbed higher, clutching their fire and tools. They watched from afar as molten rivers lit the horizon. It was no longer terror, it was awe. They saw beauty in the destruction, purpose in the chaos. They had learned that nature's fury was also its wisdom. When the fire finally died, they returned to the land once more. They built new shelters, hunted again, and raised their children beneath clear skies. The story of human survival was written not in books, but in fire, ash, and blood, carved by those who refused to surrender. From the rage of volcanoes to the rise of mankind, our journey began. A journey of resilience, adaptation, and unbreakable will. This is our origin story, the story of fire and the birth of humanity.